Let's get into it. This is episode 630. We're getting up there in episodes, man. Now, this is Bill Maher, Russell Brand, and I'm doing Russell Brand content because, just got to support. I did the same thing when James O'Keefe was going through what he was going through. Tucker as well. Rogan always. So anytime one of these truth seekers and tellers are up against the ropes, I wanna help in this very, very small way that I can. So we got Bill Maher, Russell Brand, but Bill Maher's stealing the show. It's barely about Russell Brand, but it's amazing that Russell Brand is able, knowing who he is, how much he talks, how his views are, that he's able to sit through Bill Maher just saying the most delusional stuff in this clip. It's like he's just, I've said it before, and I don't mean it as an insult. He is drinking. There's drinks there. I mean, that's what it's set up for. He likes to have a few drinks during the whole interview process that he does. It's like he just had 5 drinks before he started, or maybe this is what it's like when you've been famous since you were in your mid-20s. Now you're in your mid-60s and you're just completely disconnected from the world. But it's odd because when you focus on politics so much like he does, you think being in tune with politics would also make it so you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on with the public, how the public feels, because politics directly impacts the public, the people. But I guess that falls away at a certain point. And the one thing I could say definitely is, looking at this, if I ever have a chance to be as financially well off as Bill Maher is, because he's very financially well off, I never want to get like this. And I hope you feel the same way. Never forget where you come from. Never forget that the situations people are going through because of the people in power don't just change overnight. And just because a waiter smiles at you doesn't mean that he's having the greatest time in the world. The gas attendant, the cashier at the grocery store. Let's just get into it. This is wild what he has to say. Before I do that, of course, I got to bring you to the store. This is IamCoachColin.com. We got the Public Enemy #1 shirt right here. You can get yours now in a hoodie, t-shirt, tank top, men's and women's. Let's go. And we also have the Certified Pure Blood shirt for those of you that survived the pandemic. Unwavering, untainted, unmessed with. Great job. This is your certificate of achievement. You can get yours now. It is up. Hoodies, tank tops, t-shirts, all that. And we have the bold statement, soul not for sale, the one that started it all. It is a battle for good and evil, or a battle of good and evil, and your soul is the prize. So make sure that it is not for sale. Keep it close to you. And for all you people who think that selling your soul is a metaphor, it is not. Trust me, there are people who walk into dark rooms and sacrifice their integrity and their soul for money and fame, and we'll cover that in a completely other episode. Now, if you want 10% off of anything you've ever seen in the store, check it out. Go and check it out. 10% off of anything. Put in the discount code I am Coach Colin. That's all capital letters. That's all one word. There's one L in the name Colin, and that gets you 10% off. No questions asked. All right. Now, if you've done that with us already, I can't thank you enough. I say it all the time, and I mean it every time. Thank you so much. Now let's get into this clip.
50 is because they're perfectly fine with either party getting in.
I've been hearing this for I don't know, since I was a teenager.
Right.
Like, what? No, I haven't told you yet. What I've been hearing, let me tell you first. Don't jump your cue. I've been hearing since I was a kid that, why don't people get in the streets? Things are so horrible. And it's like, I finally realized, because for probably a majority, but certainly a great preponderance of people in America, life just isn't this unremitting nightmare. And so, yes, as a liberal, do I believe for the people who life is a nightmare, we should constantly be working harder to make it so it's not for them? Yes, I do. Am I willing to give a big chunk of my money? And I do, to alleviate that misery, that we're all kind of in this together, and it's not cool if some people are really suffering. Yes, I do. But the reason why Bernies don't get elected and there isn't people in the streets all the time is because most people is like, on a very basic level, they get it that maybe America is actually still better than most places we could be. And I'm not really doing that bad. No one's actually starving. We have lots of problems and there are homeless on the streets and lots of shit. But, you know, I get up every day. I fucking do what I want. I have material goods. The toilets work. Yes, it's a mess in a lot of ways, but, you know, am I going in the streets? No. I've got a meeting tomorrow for something, for my business, because this is still a country where I can start a business and like I can reinvent myself. That's a lot of what people like about America. Is that face you're giving me because of the smoke, or because of what I'm saying? I guess it's what I'm saying.
It's because
it's such a bad face you have. It was like I smell a fart face. It was just awful, and especially since I'm so right.
No, it's because I think it's because of despondency and despair and a kind of castration of the spirit. That's what I think is that people, by and large, don't believe. And I think that the phenomenon of Trump could be regarded differently. I'm not talking about the sort of the contested elections, because my personal perspective is it doesn't actually matter who gets in for a significant number of people. And I'm sure you're right when you're talking about like the professional class or coastal folk, or most people that enjoy the affluence that I've been afforded over my lucky little life. But I also believe that I read a good book by a man called Mark Fisher, God rest his soul, though he was an atheist and wouldn't thank me for saying that. He wrote a book called Capitalist Realism. He said that he believes that the great triumph of capitalism has been that we can no longer envisage a system beyond it. He said, famously, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. People aren't even willing to imagine that there's the possibility of divorcing corporate and state interests.
Because capitalism works.
I'm not talking
for
about
a great deal of people. That's why it's popular.
It's working less and less, though.
The same way, like, stereo became popular. Like, we could have stuck with mono, but we were like, you know what? This is actually better. It kind of works. Does it lose something? I guess that's why they keep putting albums back out in mono. And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you just put them back on 78s, for fuck's sake? Why are we going backwards? Or the kids, they like vinyl. Like, you know, I have my old vinyl. It's like, please. Enjoy listening to shitty sounding records that are scratchy.
I would say, in a way, people are on the streets. People have been on the streets, not in enormous numbers, protesting for an end to current conflicts. The Black Lives Matter protests, and obviously the movements around Donald Trump, and the movement around masks, and the trucker protests, and all of the agricultural protests in Germany and Sri Lanka and Holland, all around the world. People are protesting.
Do you know a lot of people who have been at protests or in the streets? Because I don't know anybody.
Well,
I mean, it's just like people were sympathetic. Maybe it's because I'm older and people my age don't go out and do anything, let alone go in the fucking street. I don't go to a restaurant.
Even that's too much bother.
It's amazing how ageist this country is. But
what I mean to say is that there are significant protest movements, but I think what there is a clear lack of a real vision that probably since Clinton and Blair onwards, no one is suggesting anything other than the management of decline, kind of intimate bureaucracies where we biometrically measure and manage our own health. No one's saying we could do something fantastic with America. Rhetorically, of course, great claims are made by either side, but no one's suggesting that we could reorganize society. No one's anticipating what the AI revolution is about to behold, the loss of jobs, the despair, the despondency, and that is likely to engender. And we were sort of seeing a return to feudalism. Yeah, in that beautiful film, The House I Live In, the great writer of that show, The Wire, said, you know, when it comes to the opioid crisis and the addiction crisis in your country, he said, well, why don't we just admit that in a post-manufacturing America, we've got no need for 20% of the population. They're redundant now. They're defunct. We can lose them. And sometimes I think it comes down to simple demographics, that this nation can carry a good many deeply dissatisfied and unhappy people. And by God, it looks like it is. Because if this ain't nothing, all of this conflagration that's going on in this country, mostly it's seemingly housed around the culture war, where I think they're quite happy for people to quibble and quarrel visceral and raw, because ultimately that doesn't affect the interests of the kind of the elite establishment interests that I'm interested in addressing and that Bernie has tried to address. And I would offer you this, because it seems as during the conversations that I have had with some like former Democrat Party presidential candidates, that party almost consciously, deliberately, and explicitly decided they would rather have Trump win than win themselves with Bernie. I'd like to put that to you, because that, for me, if that is true,
I will answer that, but I will answer it first in this way. Can I just take this conversation, same topic, but a little more toward the pedestrian diurnal? I mean, I know you intellectuals. You know,
what do you mean, you intellectuals? I just told you I'm from the New Jersey of England.
I know, but
I may be sipping kombucha.
You do think like an intellectual. I mean, it's because that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, let's go to daily life and see if daily life matches with your theory of life. Because, like, as you go through your day, now maybe I live in a charmed world.
Of course you do. Of course I do.
I don't think I live in such a charmed world where I go to an office, you know, I see people who work. They're not all like making giant salaries. One person at that show is. I'm not going to say who. But there's plenty. HBO is very generous. It's a good job, but it's just a job. We all do it. I'm the same as them. Like, oh, there are days like, oh God, I don't want to. I'm tired of it, but I got to keep working. And we work. We all do our best. And I don't think they're unhappy. And then if I go out and get coffee somewhere and you know, even a waiter or like even the guy who's like the valet guy, they don't seem miserable. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna pray. They like, you know, they're living their life. Like when I was in my 20s, I was poor. I got it. Like, you know, I'm working my way up, and there is opportunity, and there's stumbles along the way, and there's lots of problems, and we should keep working on them. But it's like, I don't know if it's gonna get better by being massively rewriting human nature, which is impossible, or the way the world is constructed. I think people are selfish. I think you have to always factor that in. Anytime you're developing any kind of economic system, people are selfish. And they will go toward what makes their life better. Hopefully not at the cost of somebody too much, but sometimes, you know.
You believe in enlightened self-interest, but also I don't figure you for a misanthrope. I don't feel that at the heart of your beliefs is people are bad, because at the core of my ideology is not even a begrudging, but an optimistic love of humanity. And my belief, Bill, is that if we enshrine, elevate, celebrate, and possibly even legislate the higher principles about nature, compassion, kindness, service, unity, a willingness to sacrifice. And this is where it does get personal, because I have to ask myself, what are you willing to give up, Russell Brand, in order to live in a fairer world? And I'm not just talking about taxation, because, by the way, affluent, like, sort of, you know, millionaire entertainers ain't the issue. We're talking about billionaire offshore corporations with unprecedented power that make the Carnegies and the Rockefellers look like sort of quaint little guys with Jackson dimes.
But I feel my guess.
Yes, I like that he brought those people up, because it's not just the people who are making money or in the six figures or high six figures or high seven figures or 8 or 9. There's people out there that are just wildly rich. And the thing about it is, there's not a problem. It's not a problem, rich people. You know, they're not really a problem. I think what happens after you become crazily rich, like Bill Gates rich, is that you have this thing where you want a little bit of control along with it. It's not enough to just have the money, you know? You want to be the person that sends everybody to Mars. You want to be the person that puts implants in everybody's brain so they could keep up with AI. You want to be the person who, you know, allegedly does things with mosquitoes so everybody can, you know, get pricked by mosquitoes. I don't want to get into it, but at some point you just kind of, you know, like Rockefeller structuring the school system because he wanted more workers. He felt like with the industrial age there should be more workers, and he was one of the people at the forefront of restructuring the school system so it could pump out people who are used to working, which, you know, became the sit down for 8 hours, the bells kind of signaling to you what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, when you're allowed to leave, your quitting time, all of that stuff. But past that, Bill, just crazy delusional. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Basically what he's saying at the end there is like, I go to the coffee shop and, you know, the person giving me coffee isn't in tears screaming about how hard life is, so it must be good. It's like, man, we're all of us, like when I was doing Uber Eats, I'm smiling at people. I'm being as nice as I can. I'm being as cordial as I can. I'm holding the door for people. But inside, I'm like, this is terrible. This is terrible. What am I going to do? Like, am I going to make enough this month? I have all these worries on my heart. You know, I still have these worries on my heart. I'm still thinking about that. Am I going to be able to provide for kids? Am I ever going to be able to afford a house? Who's making it so I can't afford a house? Then I hear the whole thing about BlackRock. You know what I mean? Like, just because we're not expressing it doesn't mean it's not there. It's such a crazy notion to think. I go into the office and people aren't making wild salaries. It's like, bro, you don't even know what people are. You don't even know. He doesn't even know what a regular salary is anymore. He has no idea. He got famous when he was like 28 years old, 29 years old. And it's just been on and on and on and on for how long? The guy's like 65 years old, maybe even 67. I'm not even sure. He has no idea. I've never heard, and maybe a lot of the people in show business that are this old, or maybe just in general, think this way. But yeah, Bill Maher walks in. I don't exactly get to complain about my life situation to him. I'm supposed to be as nice as possible, especially show business. Oh my God, I've worked in show business. Your attitude is everything. And basically, they want you to have a good attitude, which means that you will do anything and everything that you're told to do, no matter what, ahead of your family. It's like, it's crazy. And if you don't want to do those things and you just want to be a normal person and you want to make decisions that are going to make you and your family happier, well, it's like, oh, well, that person's difficult to work with. Oh, that person has a bad attitude. Don't want them around. Next thing you know, you're not working for months. And those people, a lot of them don't have other skills at all. I left the film industry and did Uber Eats. It happens like that sometimes. It's just crazy. Crazy to think to think if people aren't just down on their knees screaming in pain that he thinks everything's just all good. Such a delusional attitude from a millionaire, you know? But again, I don't think it's the fact that I don't even know if it's the fact that he's rich, because there's other rich people who know. They remember what it was like. But if you're getting famous in your late 20s and then all of a sudden it's just rolling from then on, and then before that you were just in your 20s and you've been trying to do stand-up the whole time, you really don't have a good grasp on reality. You really don't, you know? Like when I started stand-up, I grew into a man in a relationship, in a marriage. So I had lived a life, you know? So I know what it's like to work crazily horrible jobs. I have that connection. But when you start stand-up when you're like 18, you don't have a proper connection to the way the world works. It seems like you do, because you make these really polished bits and that are really planned out and everything. So it seems like you do, but you really don't in everyday life. You don't know what it's like. Man, wild perspective. What else did he talk about? Oh, it's not a slum. I hate when people make the comparison to, like, what he said, his exact words, the toilets work. That's why people aren't in the streets. It's not that bad. The toilets work. Why is it that when you're in a position of not living in a slum in, pick a place, Brazil, India, anywhere, like Africa, wherever it's really bad, the comparison that people always make is, well, they have it a lot worse, so you shouldn't complain. It's like, what are you talking about? I have it as bad as it gets here. And maybe not as bad as it gets here, but it's bad for me right now. And I know that it could be better, and I know that it should be better. So why wouldn't I not just complain? It's not even complaining. You have the right to want things to be adjusted in a certain way without taking away from other people and blah, 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 all that stuff. But the comparison of just, you know, you don't live in squalor. You're not living in a jungle having to hunt your food, so you have nothing to complain about. It's like, yeah, you do actually. You really do. It's like, yes, you have it better than those people that you'll never meet and never interact with. Great. Great. Can we move on with the conversation now? Now that we're here in this position with this president who's asleep right now, you know what I mean? He's like on a podium just snoring with an ice cream cone in his hand. Can we just talk about that? You do have the right to complain. I just, it's the worst when people bring that up. And then no one's in the streets. That was another thing he said. No one's in the streets. People, this, one day I'm going to meet Bill. We're going to go at it. No one's in the streets. This guy actually said out of his mouth, I don't know anyone that's going to protest. Do you? Bill Maher knows Joe Rogan. He knows Joe Rogan personally. He knows Russell Brand. He knows John Mellencamp. Like, what are we talking about here? He knows Vivek Ramaswamy. The people you know aren't going in the streets. Yes, 100%. But there are people in the streets. January 6th shows that. BLM, the riots, they show that. There are people who are willing to get in the streets. There's protests every single day. There's a massive protest in Canada right now. And it's not like ongoing throughout the night, but there have been people coming out because they're protesting the school system and what the school system is teaching their kids. It's like a massive Muslim population that are just like, we don't want this anymore. People get in the streets. But if you're a millionaire and you only know other millionaires and people in show business, yeah, you don't know people who are getting in the streets. Like, come on, man. Just delusional. I got all riled up from this guy. But kudos to Russell Brand. I mean, look at him there in the corner. Look at him there. Look at him. Just smiling. I don't know if I'd be able to. I guess I'd be able to handle that, but I'd be like, I would, at some point, I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's why Russell Brand's so much, he's been at this for a while. He's let go of his ego, all that Buddhist stuff and all that spiritual stuff. I, on the other hand, would be like, what are you saying to me right now? Like, explain yourself. Explain what you're saying to me. You're just saying that people don't get in the streets. You're just saying everything's good just because it's good around you. Like, are you crazy? Like, you have 30 employees. You're Bill Maher. What are we talking about here? Oh, you have a production company. You own a production company. Like, what are you talking about? Jesus. In politics, besides the politicians, he's one of the most famous people. Like, everybody knows Bill Maher. Everybody's watched Real Time with Bill Maher. Everybody's seen this show that's on for I want to say decades. It's been on for a long time. Or at least he's been doing something like that for a very, very long time. Everyone knows him. So disconnected. I never want to become like that. I'll never become like that. Never. Jeez. So I think. I don't know. Maybe it just happens. I don't know. But let me know what you think in the comments about Bill and what he's saying and what I'm saying. Let me know what you think about everything. Do you think it's great here? Do you think it's true that, I think people have this silent suffering. I know for me, when I was working, there was a time where I was working in a grocery store, and when I was by myself and I knew I was by myself for a while, I would be crying in the aisles. Like not like bawling, but I'd be crying. I'd be like tearing up because I'd be like, I hate what I'm doing. I hate this. I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe I made these decisions that put me in this place. I can't believe it. Like, I remember working in a muffin factory, and I burnt my arm bad. And the people who were working there, they just told me to go back to work. And I remember feeling like, wow, like no one cares about me. Like, I'm in pain. I'm burnt. Like I just have like a couple of Band-Aids on, a burn, and no one cares. And I remember feeling terrible leaving that place. I remember waking up feeling horrible having to go to these jobs. And no one would know. My friends wouldn't know. I'd smile and I'd laugh and I'd make jokes. And, you don't just let that stuff out constantly, especially at work. You're already hanging by a thread, and then on top of that, you think that you're gonna say something to someone at work and possibly possibly get fired from the thing that's just keeping you above water. Who's gonna do that? You know? There's so many jobs. I remember working in a mattress factory and seeing these chemicals. I was a kid, and the chemicals that said may cause cancer, and I was like, I need like a mask or something. And this like Indian guy didn't want to give me a mask, and I was like, what is this? Like, is this how people are treated? But you don't who are you gonna complain to? I don't know, man. If you haven't liked the video already, like the video. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. We're making 1 to 3 videos a day. Bill Maher. This guy gets me riled up. Turn that notification bell on. And other than that, I am out.